All right, Jason, you called my attention to an article. Let me just say what it is. It was written by Sean Heelan. Blog post May 22, 2025 on Sean's blog. And the title of it is How I Used O2 to Find. And then there is a long.
Yes.
So, well, tell me about the story.
Yeah, Sean Heelan, a white hat researcher. I believe this is the first publicly talked about instance where a large language model was fed a lot of code.
And found a 0 day.
And it found a 0 day.
Wow.
That's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
According to the article, 12,000 lines of code. That's a lot. In Linux kernel, and specifically found a 0 day in the SMB server. So this was OpenAI's O3 model. Mm-hmm. And I talked to you earlier, during the recording sessions today about how I found O3 to be just remarkable in its inventiveness and its ability to come up with original thoughts. But it's also, because of its reasoning engine, it's able to look at code like a couple steps back and look at it like a white hat researcher would. Okay. And so, 0 day popped up, and it was a published CVE by Sean's, and good on him for admitting, hey man, I just threw this into O3, and he did a lot of work. It wasn't like he threw it into O3 and it just found it. He threw it in and ran it. I think it cost him a little over $100 in API calls. And that's what was claimed in the article, right? And I think he tried other reasoning LLMs as well. And O3 just happened to pop out the correct answer of the 0 day a little more often than the other ones. So he actually did a lot of good AI research in not just finding the 0 day. What does that mean, Tim? I'm going to state the obvious, and I'm going to get your reaction. Okay. Well, now that we see that, I think the floodgates are wide open.
Oh, I completely concur. A bunch of things occur to me. One of them is, if you can find a 0 day for $100, you could just arbitrage bug bounty programs for starters.
Wow, that may be one of the biggest arbitrage opportunities there in the world right now.
Just pay $100 for a bug, and make a couple grand for it, and just do this as fast as you can.
Hey, there's a GitHub of Oracle, Microsoft, find me stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And then connected to that, I would kind of say, and good, right? I mean, the bug bounty programs are there because they want to find the bugs. If they're paying on bugs that they want to find anyway, and if this model makes it possible for people to more effectively find them before we find the 0 days the hard way, then good, right? Ain't nothing wrong with it at all. It just seems like an obvious thing that people are going to be doing. The second thing that occurs to me, though, is if you have access to a huge amount of LLM compute and you're wearing the black hat, why aren't you doing this exact same thing ASAP and putting those in your 0 day cache?
I guarantee it's happening as we speak.
Yeah.
Because, Sean Heelan, white hat, he blogged about it and tell us about, full disclosure. And of course, that's great because Linux can, the kernel people can put the patch in, and that's great. Yep. The bad guys are banking 0 days.
Oh, you bet the floodgates are open, right? There's so two things occur to me. The first one is, if you are a bug bounty researcher, the opportunity is there to essentially arbitrage a bug. If I can pay $100 to find a bug, and I will be paid $1,000 by the software developer, how come I'm not, why would I not be finding these things as fast as I conceivably could be? And I'm sure people are.
I guarantee it. And so are the bad guys.
Right. And then the other side is if I'm wearing the black hat and I have a large amount of resources available to me, I should be banking these things as fast as I conceivably can. Right?
Zero question. And that leads itself even into nation states
Sure.
who have unbelievable power
Right.
to be able to search code bases for
Yeah.
all sorts of things.
And there's so much code out there, right? There's so many places to look at. Now, the one thing that occurs to me is that the tools are very similar for both sides of this race. So if I'm the black hat, I'm using tools and techniques that are an awful lot like what the white hat is using, which means that there may be a more limited time window on these AI discovered flaws, right? If we're doing it the old fashioned way, if we are a nation state with a lab somewhere where our guys are looking for 0 days and they're putting those 0 days away, just from the articles and stuff that I read, sometimes these guys sit on these things for years. And it may be that sitting on this for years isn't really a viable strategy in the new world, because the way I discovered it is available to the other side. And I have a high degree of confidence that somebody over there is using very similar techniques to what I used to find this in the beginning. Right?
There's an old saying in hotel and airline loyalty points programs, earn and burn.
Yeah.
I think the black hat economy of 0 days is going to be maybe a little bit more earn and burn.
Right. So yeah, they'll be a little more aggressive and faster in their use of these 0 days on the assumption that the likelihood that it just gets pulled out from under their feet is much higher than it would have been with a 0 day that was discovered the old way.
Hyper automation everywhere, and acceleration due to new tool sets such as reasoning tools is changing everything. And that's why we said in an earlier podcast, AI isn't the elephant in the room, it is the room.
Right.
Because it's fundamentally changing every aspect of just about everything we are doing. So same as everybody else, we're in a very niche topic of PKI, cybersecurity, digital identity, but it affects us as much as it affects anybody else.
Yeah. Wow. That's a big outcome.
It's it's the beginning of a change. And, this 0 day wasn't like something that was like something you could discover with a fuzzer. Fuzzers are tools that are meant to look for specific kinds of problems like a buffer overflow. This was found by reasoning.
Yeah.
And I said to you earlier today, O3 has a sparkle of inventiveness to it. Now, yeah, it's got problems, and if you use it improperly, sometimes it doesn't do well. But my goodness, if you give it half a chance, it can surprise you with original thought and thoughts you never would have had. And even thoughts white hat researchers, black hats, wouldn't have either. And therefore, that inventiveness is so important when the game is about diagonal thinking.
Yeah.
Finding 0 days that are not just buffer overflows.
Right.
Is about diagonal thinking. That's the greatest black hats and white hats that exist. That's how their brains are oriented. They don't look at a system the way it was designed to work. They are masters of how it should work. Masters to the point where they can turn it on its edge and go, it can also work this way, in ways the people who designed it never thought. So imagine taking the greatest diagonal thinker in the world right now, which might be the O3 model, and putting it against these problems.
Yeah.
And it's only, like, to me, we will look at O3 one day and go, that's primitive.
Oh, for sure.
Primitive.
Absolutely. Right. And so that's the other interesting thing. You start to imagine, you say, okay, well, right now, this revelation now is probably transforming white hat and black hat research, and the whole bug bounty philosophy and all that stuff will transform fast, right? So then you start to imagine the capabilities of a 10 years from now AI, right?
And end of 2025 AI.
Sure.
10 years.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's and like, what is that? Like, you could imagine it being a really, really good thing because you apply the power of this very powerful AI to making our code solid and robust in the first place. And you can't find a vulnerability that isn't there.
Yep.
On the other hand, you could imagine coming up with a whole new category of exploit that we just don't even consider today.
That's right.
Right? And it's like the whole arms race thing just continues.
So, Tim, you and I are going to have future podcasts on the application of AI against post-quantum algorithms and their implementations.
Yeah, we do need to discuss that. That seems like another obvious one. And maybe against non-post-quantum algorithms, right? The application of RA on attacking RSA and ECC.
Well, Michaela Mosca himself said, look, we kind of drained the resources, ceased to really look at breaking RSA.
Right. Yeah, that was Michaela's point, right? Was no cutting edge researcher is going to put their attention on RSA when it's more likely to break one of these post-quantum algorithms, and also it's more important to break them, right? And, if you want to make your career and get tenured, you're going to do it by finding that flaw in MLDSA, not by finding that flaw in RSA, right?
Perfect.
Agreed, understood. However, if I've got all the compute I want, why wouldn't I try to break RSA while I'm at it?
And I'm thinking of nation states who have all sorts of motivation
Yeah.
to break RSA with a classic computer.
And who know perfectly well, as you and I have discussed in many episodes in this podcast, that there's going to be a whole lot of RSA for a whole long time, including beyond 2035, whether we want it or not.
Here is my final thought on this, Tim, which is, okay, so for those of you who might not understand the implications of some of the words, O3 is a reasoning model. And what solved this was reasoning. Not math, reasoning.
Yes, fair enough.
Reasoning is now at the point where it can not just look at code, but step back 15 paces and go,
what does this code mean? What's it for? What are the implications of it? Yes.
and thinking diagonally the way a white hat or a black hat would. So O3 reasoning models, we now know it can. But some of these problems, like, for example, number systems, of which human beings have been thinking about for 200 something years plus. And that's why RSA is so bloody strong, because we have 200 years of the best minds in the world who've thought about number theory.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And the unique nature of prime numbers on top of it is just incredible. However, thinking diagonally is not something that a lot of mathematicians are particularly great at. A lot of mathematicians are great at math because they're great at the math that was defined for them. Like, who were the true greats? Like, I'm thinking of, Newton.
Yeah.
And Leibniz coming up with calculus. Like they invented a new form of math
Right.
in order to express ideas that just couldn't be expressed any other way. And what I'm thinking is this, because mathematicians, God love them, they're also purists and pedantic about, well, this is the math. And there's very few mathematicians who like, I'm going to make new math. Well, AI, as good as the reasoning models have become, it's even better at math. So if you add that inventiveness to pure math skills, to today's and near tomorrow's AI, to me, becomes like, wow. My gut feel says to me that number theory will be solved.
Yeah, I was going to say you could extrapolate from that. And, you know, we're obviously a PKI podcast, so we're trying to stay focused on the cryptography. But the implications of all of what you're saying, I think, are applicable to math much more broadly than our narrow cryptographic concerns. I
Absolutely.
think they're applicable pretty universally.
I find it interesting how mathematicians are particularly interested in cryptography because it's such a cool math problem.
Yeah.
But you're right. Math in general is a gigantic topic.
Yeah.
And so therefore, wow, implications are incredible. I mean, Michaela Muska himself said, right? Like, yeah, I mean, AI will be an accelerative tool to anybody in the field. If you have a really good mathematician who knows how to use AI, that's a powerful person. And I'm just making the point here, Tim, that we just saw reasoning in non-math reasoning being strong enough to find 0 days. I say that if you look at the benchmarks of what AIs are actually good at right now, they're probably better at math than anything. And the acceleration of AI capabilities, to me, they're accelerating faster in math skills than in anything else. And I think that that will be an interesting moment, and it probably won't be that long from now, where the world's greatest mathematician won't be as smart as an AI, an off-the-shelf consumer AI.
Yeah.
Massive implications.
Massive implication. All right. Wow. Well, that was a bit of a ramble, but that was a really interesting topic.
Yeah, that's where we are in the state of the world right now.
Thank
Stay
you, Jason.
tuned. Thanks,
All right,
Tim.
stay tuned.